My name is Daniel, I'm 38, and for the last 12 years, I thought I had built a marriage on trust, love, and partnership. My wife, Claire, is 35. She has always been outspoken, a woman who never shied away from making bold claims. But what she said one evening while laughing with her friends shook me to the core and changed the course of our marriage forever. It was a casual Saturday night. We had invited 2 of her colleagues over, and as the wine kept flowing, conversations turned from work to relationships. Claire, never missing an opportunity to be the center of attention, leaned back in her chair with a sly smile and said, "Honestly, I could replace Daniel in 24 hours if I wanted to." The table erupted in laughter. Everyone assumed it was just banter, a throwaway joke. But for me, those words sliced deeper than she could imagine. It wasn't just the sentence, it was the way she said it. Confident, certain, like I was disposable, like the years I had poured into our marriage, the sacrifices, the loyalty, meant nothing. I didn't react immediately. I smiled faintly, excused myself to the kitchen, and took a moment to breathe. My heart was pounding. My stomach felt hollow. I thought of the times I had stood by her, when she lost her job, when she broke down crying over her mother's illness, when she doubted herself and I reminded her of her worth. I had always been there, unwavering, and yet, in her mind, I was someone she could replace in less than a day. The evening carried on as if nothing had happened. Her friends left, and Claire seemed to have already forgotten her words. But I hadn't. I carried them with me into the silence of the night. For days I said nothing. I observed instead. She moved through our home as though her comment had been harmless, even funny. She laughed with her phone in hand, texted late into the night, and seemed increasingly detached from me. The intimacy had been fading for months, but now I saw it clearly for what it was. A wall she had been building, brick by brick, between us. I began to wonder, was her comment simply arrogance, or had she already been entertaining the idea of replacing me? Was there someone waiting in the shadows, someone she thought would step in the moment I was gone? I thought of confronting her in anger, demanding answers, shouting until I forced some kind of confession out of her. But the more I considered it, the more I realized that anger wasn't the answer. Claire thrived on drama. If I exploded, she'd dismiss it as me being too sensitive or overreacting. So instead, I chose calm. Cold, deliberate calm. One evening, as she scrolled through her phone, giggling at some message, I sat across from her and said evenly, "Claire, I want to talk about what you said the other night. You mentioned you could replace me in 24 hours. Do you remember?" She looked up, blinking as if she couldn't believe I was bringing it up. "Oh, Daniel, come on. It was a joke. Don't tell me you're still hung up on that." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "See, that's the thing. You said it like you meant it. And I've been thinking, if you really believe I'm that easy to replace, maybe you should go ahead and try." The smirk fell from her face. For the first time in a long while, I saw her caught off guard. Her phone slipped slightly in her hand as she tried to read my expression. "Daniel, you're being ridiculous. I was joking. Don't take everything so seriously." But her voice lacked its usual confidence. There was a crack in her composure, and I could see she hadn't expected me to call her bluff. I stayed calm. Jokes usually come from somewhere. You don't get to say I'm replaceable and then dismiss it as nothing. So here's the deal, if you think I'm that easy to swap out, go ahead. Replace me. I won't stop you. But understand something, Claire. Once I walk out, there's no coming back. Her eyes widened. The color drained from her face. She set the phone down and folded her arms defensively. "You're twisting my words. Why would you even say that?" I leaned back in my chair, maintaining the same steady tone. "Because I've spent years proving my loyalty and love, while you've been busy treating me like a placeholder. I cook, I work, I support you, and I believed in us. But you seem to think men like me are standing in line outside the door. If that's the reality you want to live in, then test it. See if someone else will stay through the nights you can't stop crying. See if someone else will put you first without asking for anything in return." For once, Claire didn't have a quick comeback. Her silence filled the room, heavy and uncomfortable. The days that followed were strange. She was quieter, more thoughtful, almost cautious around me. I didn't push the conversation any further, but my distance spoke louder than words. I stopped initiating affection, stopped asking about her day, stopped filling the silence with reassurance. I wasn't cruel. I was simply done playing the role of the man desperate to prove his worth. And that shift shook her. One evening, she sat across from me at dinner and finally broke. "Daniel, I didn't mean it. I was showing off in front of my friends. I don't think you're replaceable." Her voice was softer, uncertain. I looked at her for a long moment before answering. "But that's the problem, Claire. Somewhere deep down, you do. You said it with too much certainty for it to be just a joke. And now you're realizing that if you lose me, it's not you replacing me in 24 hours. It's you trying to replace everything we built, and that doesn't come easy." Tears welled in her eyes. She reached for my hand, but I didn't move. It wasn't out of cruelty, it was clarity. That night, I packed a small bag and told her I needed space. Not to punish her, but to remind both of us of a truth she had forgotten. Love isn't about how easily someone can be replaced, but about how impossible it feels to imagine life without them. As I closed the door behind me, I didn't know if our marriage would survive, but for the first time I wasn't afraid. Her words had once cut me down, but my calm reply had shown her, and me, that I wasn't disposable. I was a man who knew his worth, and that realization left her stunned.